first off, what did you guys think of, I mean, coming from big networks like CBS and NBC, we're finishing up our offsite. Tim, what did you think of the offsite?
I love the startup mentality, that aggressive ability to make a plan, create something from almost nothing, and create a vision for it and an action plan, and then go get it. And when you see an opportunity to make a change, you have the freedom, it's liberating to go make that change in a way that you often can't do in a large company.
Yeah, and I mean, being in a large company, you too, Liz, like, do you feel the agility being here now, seeing kind of what we can do and how quick we can turn and take a left turn, right turn?
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different atmosphere, and to have, tangible tactics that you own and are completely in control of, which is not often at such a large company that you would have complete control of something like that. And so it's exciting. It's also a lot of responsibility, but it's good to own those projects and to have such a great collaborative team and everybody on board with kind of a vision and a real plan. And something with a timetable, of here's where we want to be in X amount of time.
So we have some big goals, right? I mean, number one, we just closed this $1 million post-revenue seed round, clearly to get us from where we are now, which is 6 figures of annual recurring revenue, and we want to go to more than $1 million of annual recurring revenue, and that's a big mission, and we want to accomplish it in the next 15 months. But our reason of existence is we serve storytellers, and y'all come from like some big storytelling networks, right? NBC and CBS have been around for a long time. They've adapted to a lot of new medias. They were radio companies, and then they became TV companies. So, and now social media has come about in a way that has really put the storytelling power in the hands of the talent, whether they're actors, athletes, whoever. As you look at that, I mean, like covering the Olympics and doing what you've done with brands and athletes over the last 12 years, how has social changed the game, and how do we put the power still in the middleman's hands, so to speak, to still tell the story, but do it through these individual people on social media?
So I was at NBC for almost 15 years, and when I first came on board, NBC was they were legendary storytellers, and that was their thing, and it still is their thing. And they have amazing producers and writers, and they do tell great stories. But I think as my job kind of evolved there, and my final position was a director of partnerships, it's we watched as our partners, whether it was the U.S. Olympic Committee or athletes or the NFL or whoever it was, these other brands also wanted to be storytellers. And so that was new, that everybody was kind of looking for, they wanted to create content, they wanted to get it out there. And so we really had to figure out ways, how do you partner? How do you be good partners? NBC was still a media company, and so we were used to creating the content and distributing the content, but it's all changed. I mean, social media has changed the game.
It has absolutely changed the game, Jim, and where I really saw that, like at CBS, you felt a great responsibility to that brand name, right? That logo carried meaning, or at least you thought it did. Social media really began to disconnect that brand dominance, because the audience could go directly to the athlete. They could go directly to the actor. They could go directly to that social media platform and connect. Right. And so to me, that changed our responsibility. I mean, you obviously were still keenly aware of who you represented, but you didn't work for CBS or you didn't work for the Orlando Sentinel when I worked there before. If you were a reporter, you worked for the audience that cared about the topic you covered. And not only did you work for them, but they connected to you. And if they didn't connect to you, you were not in their life. Like, you had to be in their phone to be in their life.
Yeah, and what's interesting is the two big things that have changed because of all this is, number one, this is now the screen where people prefer to consume things, not the TV screen necessarily. And so the hardware has changed, right? Number two, because people now are individual channels. They are not teams of people producing content and messaging. They still need the content, right? And so, NBC or CBS is still producing clips from shows that these individual people are a part of, whether they're athletes or actors. Or in our case, teams we work with are producing photos and videos and media for the individuals that represent their team. It's just you got to connect them and give them a plan, because they're one person. They don't have writers and producers and editors and videographers working just for them in most cases, right?
Right. Absolutely. What I see there is that in a 3-hour game, the most relevant and talked about piece of content from that game can be a 40-word tweet from someone who was in it, or it can be a 4-second GIF that told the story.
Right.
And that has completely changed the way we cover it and the way we consume it, the way we use the device during that game. Everything is different.
So, I mean, for you, then why would you not, as a big media brand or a brand that wants to sponsor content to get in front of more people, get in the game and participate? I mean,
I think for NBC and all the major media companies, I mean, it was scary at first, because when you're paying all these rights fees for speaking specifically about the Olympics, you're banking that the money, your ad sales, you're making the bulk of your money from that primetime broadcast. And so it was this mentality of, we have to save all the big stuff for that primetime broadcast. So it took a while for NBC and all the major networks to realize that, that's just not where it is anymore. And so we have to go to the people where they are, and they're on the go. And so we're going to have to start streaming this stuff live. And it was baby steps. It was, okay, we're going to put this clip on mobile. Okay, we're going to stream this, but not live. And it's finally gotten to a place of, it's live streaming. And I think the game really changed in London, the 2012 Olympics. They were pretty much dubbed kind of the Twitter Olympics. And it was at those Olympics where you realized that the athletes were going to be a part of telling the story. And I think one of the aha moment was probably the U.S. swim team made a video to Call Me Maybe, which was kind of the song of the summer.
I remember that.
And it exploded. It went completely viral, millions and millions of views. And it was like, okay, they're telling the story of the U.S. swim team and their bond, and people just, ate it up, loved it. And it was so unexpected that it was like, okay, well, now athletes are going to be part of telling their story. And how does NBC embrace that as the the coverage of the Olympics?
My aha moment actually came when I was at the Orlando Sentinel, and I'd just been named sports editor, and the Orlando Magic were in the NBA playoffs playing the Boston Celtics. And from this experience, I learned really that the gatekeeper no longer determined what was the big moment. It was the fan on social media who determined this. The Magic were playing the Boston Celtics. I have an army of reporters there, and Glenn Big Baby Davis for the Celtics hits a shot at the buzzer that completely changes the narrative for the series. As he's running down the court celebrating, he runs over a fan who makes a goofy face, his hat flips off, and he falls. My writers didn't even see this. They have their heads in their computer to meet deadlines. But on Twitter, this becomes the trending topic. Big Baby shoves the kid. It becomes a loop. It shows up in the highlights on SportsCenter, and it becomes a hashtag. So we have to find out who is the kid. My beat writer's like, don't bother me. Did Big Baby get hurt? No. Well, did the kid get hurt? No. Then leave me alone. I've got a deadline, right? I've got to write this game story. So we find out the next morning through social media who the kid was. We interview his dad. He goes on a rant. Big Baby's a raging lunatic. He should be suspended. And this nothing story, fueled entirely by Twitter, by the afternoon is on PTI being discussed, should Big Baby be suspended?
It's amazing.
It became the most viewed story on OrlandoSentinel.com in 2009, in a year that the Florida Gators won the national championship. The Magic went to the NBA Finals. They beat LeBron James and all these other things, these crazy Florida news stories that happen almost every day. Big Baby shoves the kid was the most viewed story that year, fueled entirely by and about Twitter.
So what's interesting is with both of these examples, the reality is that the fans and the athletes, actors, whatever individuals are a part of the story, they can kind of drive what happens, right? Like by fans liking something and passing it around and adopting it, they made that a bigger story than what happened with the shot that Big Baby Davis hit. With the Call Me Maybe situation, you know, the athletes decided to tell their own story. Now, we exist at Influencer to serve storytellers. We don't create them. They already exist. We serve them by giving them the messaging and other support that a normal TV network would already have for itself, but they're not used to being a TV network. They're just people, right? So what is the strategy for folks, whether they use a tool like Influencer or something else, to serve storytellers and help tell their brand stories in association with the storytellers who represent them?
Well, I think, you know, in the case of the Call Me Maybe video, USA Swimming basically just recorded it because they thought it was fun and put it up on YouTube and had no idea what would happen. And so now you know that there are things that you can do, there are things that you can plan for, and there are, you know, influencers and brand ambassadors that you can work with. And so come up with a strategic plan that they could have uploaded that video to a tool like Influencer or something else and just put it in the hands of not only their athletes, but also their supporters and their influencers and swimming enthusiasts, and just helped kind of that reach instead of just putting it up there and praying that it works, you know.
And saw the impact through the statistics and measurement that Influencer.
Storytellers need content, right? I mean, that's particularly visual content, right? And people, fans, they follow people more so than brands. They really want to be connected to those athletes and experience what's happening with them. They want to go along for the ride. So Influencer really creates an opportunity for those brand ambassadors, those athletes, to have access to great content in a way that's easy for them to share. And that just helps them connect even more to those fans who live in the real time. They want to eat this up. They, you know, I used to say that if you, if you want to kind of feed the beast, that's what we talked about in newspapers and online. You got to feed the beast. And if you feed the beast at 9 and 5, the beast will show up at 8:45 and 4:45, ready to eat. But if you feed him all the time, he'll live under your porch, right? And so that was the way was sort of the mentality that we had. Influencer can help distribute that great content to those athletes who then can connect to those fans and take them on the journey.
Mm-hmm. So as you look at where media is going, obviously newspapers aren't what they once were. But there's still a lot of talented photojournalists and videographers and writers out there. Even TV networks aren't what they once were. People consume things in smaller bits and don't even watch a live stream. Live streams, you know, aren't as big as they used to be. But the reality is people are connecting with people that represent these former powers that be. So how does a media producer or journalist or, you know, somebody who used to make a journalism living, how does a TV network locally, nationally, get in this game and like stay in the game? I think that's the question.
Your distribution's been disrupted, right? But at the same time, there's never been a better time to be a storyteller. You have better tools to take people places than
more efficient,
ever
cheaper.
Been. It's more efficient.
No satellite truck needed.
And with an audience, you have the ability to be more immediate, essential, and intimate with that audience than ever before. Mm-hmm. So you can be in the most valuable real estate in the world, which is that 3x5 screen that they hold in the palm of their hand. To me, that's incredibly exciting to help be part of that solution.
Yeah.
And I think just the most talented people, the most talented journalists and producers and TV networks have just transitioned with the times, and they've taken their viewers or readers and just brought them along on a journey, whether it's their social media platforms or mobile apps or whatever it is. And they've found a way to convert those people, and they've converted themselves to a different way. And that's what you have to do to stay relevant.
The other thing that can happen, Jim, is that you don't have to go through the traditional means to become one of the preeminent storytellers. You can be good with these tools and good on social media, and if you produce compelling content, you don't have to go through the traditional work your way up. Mm-hmm. You can take a YouTube and you can become a superstar. You can take an Instagram and you can become a superstar, and you can convert that into a way to create a lucrative living for yourself outside the traditional means.
You also could shoot really good video and be a really good creator, but not use those avenues and not know how to use those avenues, and nobody will ever know who you are.
Exactly. You're completely in the dark.